What if I told you the Federal Reserve Bank uses economic enslavement through Roman legal ensnarement? What if I told you the 14th Amendment makes every citizen of the United States its subject of economic slavery? We all feel the pressure of freedom constraining forces in this world today. It is ever pervasive and yet hard to characterize or isolate despite the common scapegoats of our day. Is it the billionaires, the corporations, institutions, experts, nation-states, political groups, ethnic groups? What if I told you the reason you feel so behind economically has to do with Roman law? Unbelievable, perhaps? Incoherent, maybe? Well, if I was a force trying to subjugate the masses, I would make sure to appear innocent and irrelevant. I would prefer to be perceived as an antiquated phenomenon that has no reference or presence in modern society. The fact of the matter is this: Roman law permeates nearly every aspect of Western society, for better and for worse. The dynamic of empire has shaped Roman legal principles, and its oppressive force is growing in America today as the average person struggles to make ends meet and keep up with the rising cost of living. The individualistic rigor of America is being eroded by collectivist sentiment as a response to this feeling of economic suffocation. But frankly, the force of empire doesn't care about capitalism versus socialism. Its currency is human energy, and it continues to siphon human energy and harnesses it for destruction of the middle class and family wealth. Welcome to Evolution Recognition. We are diving deep into Roman law Part 2. Here at this channel, we examine history and examine how it has formed modern society. We participate in pattern recognition and hope to rekindle the philosophy of logic and truth-seeking. In a world increasingly divided and tribal, we use philosophy as our compass and the scientific method as our vessel to navigate the waters of uncertainty to come to truth. We hope to empower our audience to think for themselves and begin to see how history cycles are reverberating today, so that we can empower individuals and families to begin to apply modern wisdom to free themselves from a disempowered life. First, we need to examine the three pillars of legal farce that perpetuates the centralization of power and control in even the freest republican nations such as America itself. The first is the most egregious and the crux of legal entrapment: legal personhood. How do you define a person? Is it a living human being with all his or her associated dignities and rights? Or is it a legal definition that encompasses any group or association that has rights and obligations? Under Roman tradition, personhood means legal status. It is the personality that is worn by an individual or group to give them status in commerce. Without personhood today, you cannot transact in business or participate in the economy on a scale. Essentially, you cannot survive without participating in the legal system. You must have some personhood that derives its existence from the state and from legislative decree. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, the Founding Fathers of America based the Constitution and the idea of individual rights on common law. The idea that law should be based on reason and legal precedent. Under common law, your rights are recognized as inherent and coming from your innate dignity as a living human. Under Roman civil law, your personhood must be codified by the state. The modern American phenomenon of personhood comes from being a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. Still not making sense? Well, let's follow the downstream effects. If you have legal rights only insofar as you inherit the identity and the status of a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, then your legal status is privileged based on the federal government's man-made legal system. This fundamentally contradicts the Founding Fathers' philosophy and the framework of the American Republic. America was founded as a federal republic, meaning the states' rights and decentralization of government were essential for freedom of the population. After the Civil War, the federal government became very powerful and flipped the power dynamic to make the nation centralized under federal 14th Amendment U.S. citizenship. This is a key driver of the power engine of the republic, leading into the dynamic of empire. Which brings us to key pillar number 2: liability and accountability shielding. The Federal Reserve banking system was created in 1913 and pushed the public as a beneficial institution that would ensure continued stability and economic prosperity for the nation. In reality, The elite banking dynasties of the day used this as a sleight of hand to gain control over the government, and by extension the American people, via legislative trickery. These elite dynasties now had a publicly funded institution shielding from any liability or accountability. No one could elect the officials of this institution, and yet it would privatize the profits of lending money to the government via unlimited money printing. The government could fund whatever project or war it wanted via lending from the Federal Reserve, which would print the money, causing a hidden tax of inflation unto generations to come, essentially borrowing from the future to pay for the destructive policies of the present. No incentive exists to spend money wisely or effectively, as the government has no competitor and an unlimited piggy bank. How does this all tie together? Well, 14th Amendment U.S. citizens had no political avenue to moderate the runaway spending of the government and hold the Federal Reserve accountable through its legal shielding. Not only that, but because 14th Amendment citizens were created by paper, they were treated as paper. They were commercial units with a lifetime tax value to the federal government to help fund its indebtedness to the Federal Reserve. The income tax was created shortly after the creation of the Federal Reserve, and now American continues to be compelled to owe the federal government money on their labor. Just as in Rome, when the tax collector demanded tribute to Caesar, the energy of empire gained a major victory in the creation of the Federal Reserve. It gets even worse. As the government utilized legal personhood to create regulatory bodies to do its bidding, they were able to create a web of bureaucratic institutions. These institutions, such as the EPA, FDA, OSHA, FAA, would have broad authority to regulate industries. These institutions would create legally compelling regulations outside of the constitutional congressional legislature. But what does this have to do with limiting economic freedom? Well, if these institutions are quasi-governmental public institutions being created and funded by taxpayer dollars, then the economic burden of inefficient public institutions creates an even bigger budget that needs to be filled with more taxes and printing money. Over time, the currency you earn becomes increasingly worthless, leading to loss of economic opportunities for each successive generation. Now let's dive deeper into the third pillar, professional legal monopoly. Did you know that when the Constitution was written, there were only 4 felonies? Now there are over tens of thousands of felonies, hundreds of thousands of codes and statutes written into federal and state legislatures. Common law is based on the philosophy that the law should be simple and common sense. Fundamentally, the common law is based on equity or fairness. Treat others as you would want taught to be treated is the golden rule of Christianity, a firm philosophical background for a law system. Now we have a system based on Roman civil law, where there is a code for every scenario, each transgression, and every aspect of human life is trapped into legal codes and definitions that are so confusing and ambiguous that we have a whole legal monopoly of experts to interpret them. This creates a whole class of legal monopolists who navigate this complex web of codes to unjustly persecute and then collect money on the fines and penalties of all these codes. No wonder America has the highest number of incarcerated people relative to population in the developed world. Emperor Justinian understood this. In 529 AD, he codified the whole Roman law in Corpus Juris Civilis. As the empire grew, so did the burden of its legal system, and so it needed to be written down and developed into a whole legal industrial complex of unjust class separation between those versed in the law and ordinary citizens. This created a whole system where people could not represent themselves in legal suits of action, very similar to the legal system we live in today. Today, we have the bar system, where to become a legal representative, you must be certified under a single corrupt body that benefits from the ignorance of the people and the complex bastardization of the law. The legal educational system shapes values and institutional loyalty. Administrative expertise begins to override popular will. The combination of these 3 legal pillars creates an empire of control that erodes wealth and economic opportunity for the middle class over time. This happens so gradually and insidiously that it's hard to notice in real time. It causes a misunderstanding between generations, as those who benefited from better economic opportunities fail to see how these have become far more limited in opportunity. This is in direct contradistinction from America the Founding Fathers intended to create. The Constitution was designed with distinct egalitarian principles of republican federalism, decentralization, common law, transparent and visible government, sound money system, robust industry, and free market economy. The Roman civil law slowly but surely crept in to erode these principles and create a concentration of power among corporations, public institutions, and the expertise class. It turned dignified citizens into legal persons, morphed into an economic unit to feed the growing appetite for power concentration in the hands of the ruling class. Even more tragic is the embrace of socialism that the masses are turning to. They recognize that there is a power and wealth gap, but see it through the lens of Marxist ideology. They falsely identify this class struggle as innate to capitalism and fail to champion merit, innovation, and entrepreneurship. They believe that the government should fix corruption and create equity. Ironically, the powers that create inequity utilize the hand of government and its legal sword to oppress them further. The only struggle is really the struggle between republic and empire. If citizens were educated about legal status, how fiat currency works, and how to protect themselves, they would not feel the need to turn to socialist ideas. As mentioned in the beginning of this episode, the ruling class does not care whether we are in a capitalist or socialist society. They will gain power either way if we remain ignorant of our farce of a legal system. We need to remember our innate lawful rights as humans and cherish the classic republican virtues of America, not to abandon them in socialism. What steps can you take to empower yourself? First, learn history. Second, learn your lawful rights. Third, learn how to protect your wealth from inflation. And fourth, find parallel systems of commerce outside the system of oppression. Learn about Bitcoin, precious metals. Think twice before signing more contracts with the government and signing up for upcoming tyrannical control mechanisms such as digital IDs. Raise awareness in your community and your family, and resist the temptation to take the easy and convenient road. The road to sovereignty is difficult and requires maturity, but is always worth it. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. We want to hear from you in the comments. What did you learn from this video? What action steps can you take right now to empower you and your family? It's never too late to reclaim your freedom and your sovereignty. Thank you all for tuning in, and subscribe so you can stay updated and inspired to think for yourself and make sense of the world we live in today.